Hello, everyone, and welcome to Four Lads Rangers Midweek podcast. Is Danny going to rule the roost? We're certainly going to discuss it all, and I'm joined by our two very favourites, Chris and Kenny. Kenny's in a mood because he was telling us a lovely story about his cat, and I cut him off to start the show. So, Kenny, I'm sorry about that, mate. Tell everybody about your cat.
It's not my cat, mate. It's my mum's cat. I am now the chief cat sitter. We were watching Tracy's daughter's cat for a couple of weeks there. Got rid of that about 20 minutes ago, and we've got another cat in. So Christ knows when that's going back either. So, yes, busy with cats.
Chris, how are you, mate? You well? Tough week for you. Almost the appointment of Kevin Muscat. We were both really excited, looking forward to it, but it's went in a different direction, so plenty to discuss this evening.
Yep. Worked myself away, mate. No speaking to my friends, family. Went off my food. It's been tough. Doesn't mean I'm not going to support Danny Rohl. Obviously I will, but I'm sure we'll come up.
Yeah, we absolutely will. But let's get straight into it. Danny Rohl was obviously introduced on a 2.5-year contract yesterday to the media. There was a fan media briefing which we put up on the website. I hope people enjoyed that. Insight questions from myself, Heart and Hand, and Follow. So I hope people enjoyed that. And also last night there was a round table meeting which wasn't recorded. Minutes weren't taken. We were allowed to share that with Patrick Stewart, Andrew Kavanagh, and Kevin Thelwell. I'm happy that we will discuss that this evening also and give you a bit of an insight into that as well. Guys, let's get right into Danny Rohl. Kenny, he's got all to prove. I think that's clear. And it's a shame because he maybe starts in a position of, for many people, you need to show me what you're going to do. And I feel a wee bit like that because I've 5 managers in such success and the way we've had it this quickly. It's just, it becomes, he does speak well. He does do all the things you expect, but is he going to be able to get more out of this squad? That's the biggest question for me because I there's still a case for me that it doesn't matter who's in charge because this squad is severely lacking. Or are they severely lacking, or can he get more out of them? So it's a big question for me.
I think the squad is lacking, Stevie. However, I think it is better than it's shown. Certainly better than Russell Martin managed to get out of them. I think both Andrew Kavanagh and Kevin Thelwell both kind of alluded to that yesterday, didn't they? That they felt that the squad hadn't performed to the way they felt they should be, and that's why Russell Martin's lost his job. On Danny Rohl, I beg your pardon, fell right away. On Danny Rohl, it's one of those things, Stevie. I think if he had been appointed in the summer, we wouldn't have been quite so, worried about everything because he would have came with a clean slate. And you do look at the job he did at Sheffield Wednesday under difficult circumstances. And again, on the surface, you would look at that and say anybody that's finishing 12th in the Championship it's not really a grounding for Ibrox, is it? But under the circumstances, I think he did a fantastic job there. He's obviously been at Bayern and the German national team, so he's got a decent enough pedigree. But frankly, it counts for nothing until we see what he does, and he's got to get results right away, Stevie. And I think that's the issue because you said it yourself. There are 5 managers in 2 years, basically, and we can't go on like this. However, that's not our fault, and the Rangers fans are taking an awful lot of stick for being so demanding, and I just think it's utter nonsense. I really do. I find it quite insulting to us that after everything we have been through, all you're looking for is a decent Rangers side. That's all you're looking for, and we don't have one. So it's up to Danny Rohl to go and find the formula, the magic formula, if you want to get results with this squad and get us through to January, where hopefully he will get allowed to kind of mix a few things and perhaps get one or two additions, because again, it's something we've said on here forever, Stevie. We're lacking leadership in key areas, and it needs addressed.
Just want to say sorry to Colin. Hope it hasn't spoiled your evening, buddy. Just a week ago, so hope it was all right. No more jokes on the podcast. We'll be serious and grumpy. Chris, Danny Rohl was introduced yesterday. What did you make of him, and how do you feel? Let's not focus on what wasn't, but what is. He's here now. How do you take it?
Well, first of all, Stevie, you're saying no more jokes. Let's get serious. And then Chris, like, what you trying to say there? You know what I mean? It's it's not the end of the world for me, or maybe it is. Stevie, I'm totally. I just want to make clear right from the get-go, I've got nothing against Danny Rohl. I would obviously have preferred a different candidate, and you're right, there's no point me, being bitter or whatever about that. But the same thing would have applied to Kevin Muscat as it would have applied to Steven Gerrard. The same thing would have applied would it have been anyone else other than Rohl, Gerrard and Muscat. I'm not interested in what they've got to say. I've heard it all. From so many different people: Beale, Clement, Rohl, Stewart, Felwell, Kavanagh, Marathi. I've heard it all. I'm not interested. Just go and win football matches. That doesn't mean that I'm not backing Danny Rohl. I want him to win, and I want him to win a lot with Rangers, because that means that we'll be a successful side. I'm certainly not against him, but I don't want to hear about his style of play. I don't want to hear about what he's going to do or what his plans are. And see, to be fair to Danny Rohl, I don't think he wanted to discuss that either. He was very much of the mindset, there's no point talking about a philosophy or a style of play. You win first, and then we deal with how we win, which I suppose that was the positive for me, because what you want to hear from a Rangers manager in this predicament is getting us to climb the league, and that we're sixth in the league. You know what I mean? We can't forget that, and I think he is really, really kind of clear on that remit. I think Andrew Kavanagh said it as well. It's not about it's not about what's Danny Rohl been told he has to do this season. It's about winning tomorrow. Quite literally in that respect. Obviously, he said this yesterday because obviously he was meaning it's about what you do tomorrow, but quite literally in this respect, it is about winning tomorrow, and then it's about winning the next game, and the next game, and the next game, and the next game, and then that's where we need to be, and then hopefully we can build up a bit of momentum. And yeah, I think talk, whoever it is, Stevie, and I do include Muscat in this, and I do include Gerrard in this. I think talk is cheap now. We just need to win, because I think if you look at where we've been since January, I think if you take the cut-off point where we were at our lowest in January, it was probably Queen's Park. Since Queen's Park to the Falkirk game, we just have not won enough football matches. Nowhere near it. And that is really hard to stomach. By the way, obviously, I just want to, not that I need to do this, but I think obviously a lot of people can misconstrue or take it out of context what you're saying, but none of that's Danny Rohl's fault, by the way. None of it at all. But that's the situation he's inheriting, which is really, really unfair on the guy. But it is what it is, and he just now needs to make us a winning football club again. And by that, again, just qualify that. I don't mean winning trophies, because that's the long term plan. I just mean winning football matches. So yeah, let's just see, and let's just hope he can get us that winning feeling again when it comes to actually winning football matches. And then if he wins enough of them, then the trophy should fall.
Right, I'm gonna shock everybody, Chris. I agree with you, because I've been to too many of these press conferences now for Rangers in the last few years, and it needs to stop. So it was a shame yesterday, because I actually felt myself in the moment when Danny Rohl was talking, and he speaks very well. Of course he does. And I thought to myself, of course he does. And I remember thinking Russell Martin, Philip Clement, Michael Beale, Giovanni Van Bronckhorst, all being impressed by them. And it gets to a point where I'm now thinking, I just want to see it on the pitch. I don't really mind you talking about pressing and what we're going to do on the counter press and how we're going to line up and what formation and how we're going to play and my philosophy and, you know, talking about going hunting and things like that all sounds great. And it's not Danny Rohl's fault, but I'm now in the position where I'm just like, please just go and win. And that is absolutely nothing to do with him. It's to do with what we've been through now in the last several years. And Chris is right. I seen a stat somewhere saying we'd only won something like 5 league games or 5 games at Ibrox this year. And I can't remember, I read that a couple of weeks ago or whatever, and that's just not enough. So I think you're totally right there. Kenny, the biggest thing is that we are, I think, battle scarred, not by Danny Rohl coming in, but by this whole process, by what we've had in the last few years. I don't think it's unreasonable now for a fan base to be behind them, but to say, let's just see how it goes on the pitch, because we have heard a lot from everybody, and there maybe needs to be a time where Rangers get into, and this is what I was trying to say about last night, we need to see normality. When things happen against us, decisions are made at the club where we go, right, that's correct, onwards we go. It seems to be there's too many decisions being made where we go, what are they thinking when they're doing that? And also on the pitch, there needs to be a regularity where Rangers just get back to winning games. Win games, act like a big club, be professional off it. It shouldn't be that difficult, but yet we have made it really difficult. And Danny Rohl's come into that situation, and he's come into a situation that, let's be honest, it's a bit of a clusterfuck. And he's right in there. He's a young coach. Do you think he's got what it takes to handle this? Because as Andrew Kavanagh says, the lights are brighter in Glasgow, and he's been thrown in at the proverbial deep end.
I certainly hope so. Whether he has or not, who knows? Time will tell. I think the only thing that I think he perhaps has in his favour is the kind of absolute shit show that was going on at Sheffield Wednesday last season, where players were getting sold from under him, and you know, whole stands getting shut down, and you know, the absolute negativity in their local press in Sheffield about the owner. I think it's Chance Siri or something his name is. It's something like that. An absolute weapon of a human being who's destroying that football club. So he's worked up under extreme duress over the last couple of seasons. That's not Rangers though. So this is about winning, and with all respect to Sheffield Wednesday, the job he's had to do the last couple of seasons is keep them up, which he's done with a fair aplomb, to be fair to him. But we have to understand that, and it's a very important thing here that we've discussed it over and over again. He's not a manager, he's a head coach. So what exactly his remit is open for discussion, I suppose, because that almost seems to me that his entirety is to win games, nothing more, nothing less. That's his entire responsibility, is to win football games. So the precedent's been set, Stevie, where 5 wins in 17 will get you the sack. And rightly so at Rangers, but that's the way the new owners have now set the precedent, that if you're going to win 1 in 4 games, you're not going to survive here. So he's going to realistically have to up that win rate massively at Rangers. As Chris has said, we've got to get up that table. We've got to find ourselves in third over the next couple of weeks. And then start hunting and chasing, which is what he was talking about. That's what we've got to do. Just get ourselves in the top of the rest of the pack, and then start chasing the other two and see where it takes us. Because, frankly, if we don't finish in the top 2 this season, it's an absolute catastrophe for Rangers Football Club. It really is. So we have to, as a football club, as the owners, as the head coach, as the fans, we all need to try and start uniting in some kind of way as best we can, and focus on that hunt, that chase that we need to start pursuing. This, whether the squad is strong enough, as I said, I don't know, Stevie.
That's what I was just about to ask you, Chris, and that's the biggest question. This squad is massive questions about it. We don't know how good these signings are. We all have hopes about Asgard, Ant-Man and Gassama and Rothwell and whoever else you want to throw in there. Maybe even Chermiti, maybe. But what do we do? And what does Danny Rohl do to get the best out of this squad? And how can he get through to January when undoubtedly we need a spine brought into that team? So how does he get there in a position where he doesn't lose the fans really quickly? Because there has to be a turnaround, but does he have the tools available to do it?
The short answer you'd have to say on the evidence that we've seen is probably not. Which then means you have to ask yourself, what can he do? I'm all for, and I don't know if this is fully realistic, but when I was chatting about this in the one of the group chats I'm in the other day there, this was even before Danny Rohl had come back to the table. I was actually, the chat was, what do we do until January? Because it doesn't look like these players are good enough. And even if they are good enough, their mentality is just way below what's required. I think there's no doubt about it. Max Aarons, there is a player there somewhere. He's got to a decent level in his career, but his mentality is just so not what is required of a Rangers player. I don't think that's even questionable. I think, it's quite clear to see. So what do you do? So there is an option for Danny Rohl. There is a core of players still there that were there last year that I think aren't good enough to win as a league, but I think they're good enough to get us to climb the table. You've got John Sterling coming back at some point, so he'd be quite handy for him. I think your midfield three of Raskin, Diomande and Barron, I think they're more than good enough to see us through the next couple of weeks. Gassama, definitely use him. He's been the pick of the signings. I think Asgard, you can definitely use him. So there's your two wingers, and then you're just looking at who's the striker that you're probably going to rely on the most. It's probably going to be Miovski, because Chermiti just doesn't look anywhere near ready to play for Rangers. So I think that's the way to go. Could be wrong, but obviously it's also dependent on players staying fit. But then again, I also am realistic. It's not realistic to bomb out every single new signing that has come into the door, especially when we've spent a lot of money. So I just don't see it getting that balance. I don't know how he's going to get that balance, because if he does play more of the newer players than the older players, I can't see us climbing the league rapidly. If he does play a lot of the older players over the newer players, then I think we will climb the league steadily, but it's not going to be anywhere near to the pace that the fans expect. What I will say is we understand as a fan base where we're at. That's why we're having this discussion. Do we trust the players? Is the players good enough? And I think the overall opinion is that they aren't really good enough, even to get us to where we need to be in January. And that's where Danny Rohl is kind of up against it, and that's where I think that he will have to perform. I don't want to use the word miracles, but he's going to have to really get something out of these players that the previous manager hasn't, and that's really unfair. But again, he's an ambitious coach, and I think he'll see something in these players that, I can unlock something there. And not that I'm taking anything this guy says with any authority, but Kevin Felwell did say that as well. He believes that he can really unlock something in the players that we haven't seen. So I'd like that to be true. But to answer your question, and a kind of long-winded answer here, Steve, I don't think they are good enough. But I think there is enough there for Danny Rohl to come up with some sort of solution to get us to winning football matches. Is it going to win us the big games? That remains to be seen, but I think there is enough there. But certainly in January there has to be, and this is ridiculous that we're even in this situation, but there has to be big changes yet, even in January. I think Andrew Kavanagh said that more experienced leaders have to come into the squad, and I'm all for that, because that's what I'm missing, and certainly the defensive line, that needs to be addressed as a matter of urgency to have potentially 3 out of your 4 backline being on loan at any one time is just, what can you say? I mean, we'll just be going over old ground again about the squad building, and I really can't be bothered with it.
Did talk about it yesterday, Andrew Kavanagh, but we'll come to that. Thanks to our new members tonight, Richard Graham and Thomas Shanklin. I'm pretty sure Thomas Shanklin's a Jambo, judging by his comments in the threads and stuff like that. Becoming a member, welcome. Yep, feel free to gloat away. Something like that. We'd rather have used top of the league, given where we are. That's all I'll say about that. Danny Rohl has added 2 members to his backroom staff today who have joined the team ahead of their trip to Norway. Sasha Lenz joins as our new men's first team performance manager, and Matthias Kaltenbach has appointed as a role as assistant manager. Now, I've probably butchered both of them. It's become a little 4 lads tradition that's what happens when there's a name that's not Smith. So I've done my best with it. Kenny, I asked him last night in the fan media presser what his backroom staff was. He said he would be bringing 2 Germans with him, and he said he would bring a local ex-Rangers player. That's led to a lot of speculation. I asked him to name them. He told me that he wasn't ready and they weren't confirmed yet, and they were at training with their names on their shirts and all sorts. So I'm pretty sure that he screwed me over there, and as far as I'm concerned, Danny Rohl out already. But who do you think would make a good local coach? Does it matter? Because, I mean, we're now at the stage where we're kind of working our way down the list of TNT presenters. We've had Alex Ray, we've had, others in there that have done the job, and no disrespect to them. I'm not sure that being an ex-Rangers man, if they don't have a big say, Alex didn't have a big say in what Philip Clement was doing. So how valuable is it? Is it a Lee Wallace? Kenny Miller's been mentioned. There's been other names in there mentioned. Lee Wallace, I think, would be an interesting appointment. Youth coach, I believe, at Hearts under 19s. He's a big fan favourite. Does it really matter?
Yeah, it does for me. The most highly qualified there is for me, to be honest. I've not really overly, thought about this, because he'll bring whoever it is he wants to bring in, and that's just the way it'll be. And kind of the way managers and head coaches work, they'll just bring their preferred candidates in. The club will okay it, and that'll be that. I wasn't impressed with Russell Martin's backroom staff. I don't know anything about the other 2 boys that Danny Rohl's brought in at all. I think one of them's Timo Werner's father-in-law, something like that. Is that right? The other one is he a sports psychologist or something like that? I have no idea about them. So good luck to them. Welcome aboard. Hopefully they make a difference. On the local candidate, I would be very inclined to go for a Billy Dodds or a Neil McCann for a little bit of continuity, because they've been there recently. They'll know the players that were there last season, and he'll be able to guide a little bit over the foreseeable. Other than that, I don't know. I'm not keen on Lee Wallace, and it's not a personal thing. It's just because I don't think he's qualified enough. Kenny Miller, I think, is pretty similar. I don't think he's done huge amounts in the game as a coach. So I would be more looking. I actually said on the 4 lads chat, I would actually love to see him go and get somebody like Jermaine Defoe, but I very much doubt that will happen. But that's who I would kind of like to see be a little bit more ambitious than just a local guy that's available. Go and be a bit more adventurous, and a role model that Jermaine Defoe is. That's the kind of person I would want to see there. But it really won't bother me too much, Stevie, who it is. But if it is going to be that local ex-player coach, if you like, I would probably prefer it to be somebody like a Billy Dodds or a Neil McCann, because both decent coaches, both know the game, both know the club very, very well.
Chris, final thing about yesterday and Dan, or the part with Danny Rohl, is that I asked him off camera just at the end. I said, you're wearing your suit and brown shoes, etc., tradition with the club. Would you continue that at the edge of the pitch? And he said yes, that's his wish. He wants to follow tradition, very important to me and the club. a lot's been made about that, and at times I think maybe some people used it just against Russell Martin because they'd already decided where Russell Martin was. I understand that. There's another part of me that says that football moves on, and if they want to wear a tracksuit, then okay. But there's a big part of me that Rangers are a traditional club, should be, suited and booted on the touchline for the manager, head coach. How do you feel about it? I'm interested to get another perspective on it.
To me, I kind of look at it from a different point of view. It's a mark of respect to the club and the fans. It's what we know a Rangers manager should be doing. But I also have an alternative view. You win things with this football club, trophies, not just matches. You win trophies for this football club, then you've earned the right to then break a tradition and go your own way and carve your own path. So I believe that's the right way to do this. Danny Rohl has to wear a suit because it is tradition. Rangers are a very traditional club. It is how a Rangers manager should look. But if Danny Rohl earns the right to change that tradition, then he'll be supported. And let's be honest about it, Stevie, nobody will actually care. The reason that we did care so much with Russell Martin's because it did not look right. It didn't look like a Rangers manager. It didn't carry himself like a Rangers manager. It didn't sound like a Rangers manager. And then to top it all off, the guy was just full of shit because he said he didn't wear it because he would sweat a lot. But then at games where it was raining, he was wearing this big duffel jacket. You know what I mean? Like, come on, it's just, we're not stupid. And he did treat us as if we're stupid. So I get why people were really annoyed about Russell Martin, because he wasn't forthcoming with the truth about it, and with Danny Rohl, forgot the Rangers manager's name there. With Danny Rohl, I think it's a good start. I think it's a good start. It's certainly. It's an easy win for him, as it would be for anyone. Just want to clarify that because I'm getting, honestly, I don't anything slightly negative and Danny Rohl's getting pure twisted against me here, but it really, as it would be for Kevin Muscat, whatever. But it's an easy win for the new manager, whoever that new manager is, and he's done absolutely the right thing because he doesn't want any added silly pressure. And it is a silly pressure because I get it from the outside. It does look silly to other fans, and I'm not even specifically talking about the other mob. I'm talking about all other fans, and I do get that to a certain extent, but to us it's important, and he is going to do that, and at least they won't have people dissenting against that, and we can focus on what really matters, which is winning on the pitch. But I do definitely believe that it is a mark of respect, and I feel that he's respecting the club and the fans, and if he starts winning us trophies, he can wear whatever he wants, Stevie, because I will not care a jot, and that includes the Borat mankini if he wanted.
Let's not take it that far. Steady.
Can I just jump in on this very quickly? I think, he's, as we know, he's German, and if you think back to the Europa League final against Eintracht Frankfurt and the way they were going on about the two traditional clubs, he mentioned it last night, didn't he, Danny Rohl? Such a traditional club. And I think when you look into it a little bit, the Germans have got a real thing about traditional football clubs. They love them. They've got a real bee in their bonnet about, and I know he's been at Leipzig, but they've got a bee in their bonnet about these manufactured football clubs. They prefer the traditional style of football club, and I think they really do respect it. And I think that's probably where it's came from Danny Rohl. Beg your pardon, done it again.
Yeah, we went through a real spell of calling Max Aarons until we were corrected, and then it was Max Aarons, and we still make the mistakes. So we're only human. We'll do our best. Moving on, this is the one that I think will cause the most controversial discussion. Andrew Kavanagh, Kevin Thelwell, and Patrick Stewart met the press in an interview you would have seen go live on the club's channels this morning at 7 a.m. We then had a chance to speak, I had a chance to speak to him last night, which we'll also discuss. Gentlemen, I'm very keen to get your impressions of the men, Chris and Kenny. Kenny, Andrew Kavanagh, how did he come across for you?
I thought Andrew Kavanagh came across quite well. In fact, I thought he came across really well. I thought the initial point of the press conference when Danny Rohl was introduced. What he said there, I thought was really, it was kind of almost like reading from a script. But the longer the day went on, I thought he was becoming much more natural. And I think he kind of gets it. I think he's realised the kind of mess that Rangers are in at this moment in time. I think he's began to understand this is a thing that's gone on for way longer than he's been here, and I think he's realised that he got that monumental fuck up of Russell Martin badly wrong, and he kept saying that we need to own it and fix it. And I thought he did all right, mate. I genuinely thought he came across really very well. Quite an authoritative figure. And I noticed that what he was trying to do quite a lot was take on board a lot of the football stuff as well. He was talking about the football itself quite a lot, which I found quite intriguing. But in the main, I would expect nothing less of the Rangers owner, the Rangers chairman. I thought he came across pretty well, but I'm expecting that of the guy that owns Rangers Football Club, to be honest, for him to be a man of stature, a leader, and fair play to him for, as I say, admitting the errors of his first few months and trying to rectify them very quickly. But we've already said it with Danny Rohl. Both you two have said it. Talk is cheap. Actions speak far louder than words, mate. And it's what we do from here that's going to be more important than what you said yesterday.
Chris, any thoughts on Andrew Kavanagh?
Probably just echoing what Kenny's saying. Some of the answers were pretty good. Some of the answers, nah, not for me. The not for me was obviously backing they two, Stuart and Felwell. Didn't blow me away. I think, to be honest, I don't think there was much he could have said other than what he did say. There is a chain of thought here that, yeah, he's fronting up, and he is fronting up when we were expecting the Americans to sort of just go and hide and not really faces and only really come out in the good times, because that's kind of typical American sport owner in many ways. I don't know. Listen, as I say, I was unmoved either way. I was more emotional about Stewart and Felwell. I think Kavanagh has got the right intentions, and I think he does want Rangers to win. But to what Kenny says, talk is cheap and actions speak louder than words. His actions contradict his words by keeping Stewart and Felwell in Rohl.
Tell us your thoughts on Stewart and Felwell then, and how they appeared yesterday. I was going to go to Kenny first, but go for it. Take it away.
Stewart, disaster. He's just not comfortable in front of a camera. I believe it's just a lot of hot air. What I will say about Felwell is he tries to explain the thought and process behind each and every one of his answers, because his answers can't be emotional. His answers do need to be technical answers, because he is explaining a process, if that makes sense. How do we go about signing players? How do we go about signing that particular player? How did you go about recruiting your son? So you could see he's trying to give us as much transparent information as we possibly can get. But in the other breath, as we know, it's no cutting the mustard, the answer. I don't see any of his answers as being good enough, because he's trying to tell us why we signed Chermiti, okay? And I get that, right? So that's a big question. What is it you see in Chermiti that we don't? Because that there is a difference here. He sees something. He sees the data. He knows the boy a wee bit better. Well, a wee bit, but he knows the boy better than we do. So we have not seen the best of Chermiti yet. So explain that, Kevin. And then he starts to answer off well, and then he just falls apart when he says that his metrics are better than Dominic Calvert-Lewin at that age. And you're just like, Jesus fucking, like, what is this? You know what I mean? And then the the Robbie Felwell. So I seen it in the comments, and please believe me, I can't remember who commented it, but please believe me, I was actually going to mention this. Robbie Felwell, Dan Purdy wanted to bring him to Everton. I didn't think he was good enough, or I didn't think he was ready. Right, so he's not ready for Everton, but he's ready for Rangers. No, I'm not having that, Kevin. And then Patrick Stewart, I will be honest, and this is no criticism of you, Stevie, but it is a criticism of everyone really that was in that briefing as a whole. Patrick Stewart got away with a wee bit with that. I don't think enough questions were asked of him. It was all directed to Andrew Kavanagh and Kevin Felwell, and that played right into his hands, to be honest. He only answered one question, which was right at the end, and I think he took it because he realised they didn't say anything. And I didn't really understand why no one was asking Stewart the questions. And I do understand, Stevie, that he was far more vocal in the round table, which you will give us more insight into. But he really had to put on record a lot, and I suppose he did put it on record at the round table, which has been reported with you guys, but I'm talking about at that press conference. So what I will say is any questions that Patrick Stewart did answer in either the manager's press conference or the exec's press conference, he didn't impress me at all. He's not an impressive individual at all. But I'm not defending him here, but maybe it might come across as I'm defending him. It just doesn't look comfortable in the position he's in when it comes to dealing with the media. So maybe there is a bit about that. But Kevin Felwell, he tried, but I think he fell below standard, my standard. So I get that he might have appeased other people. Patrick Stewart, just nothing at all. Andrew Kavanagh, yeah, I felt he done okay. But the whole thing for me, I don't feel any more comfortable with the management side of things in terms of Felwell and Stewart than I do today than I did yesterday. I really don't. I think it's going to head one way, and I think both of them need to be removed. My opinion has absolutely not changed in that, and the fact that both are getting another transfer window. I'd like to believe that they're going to fix a lot of the mistakes that they made in the summer, but I don't. My fear is it's going to make even more, create even more damage. So yeah, sorry, I don't have any positives on it. I really don't. I could sit here and happy clap, Stephen, and tell you everything that I don't feel, but what would be the point in that?
It's not the point in the podcast, Chris. We aren't here to all sing from a hymn sheet. You're here to give honest opinions, and people can accept that. Like, when you come on the podcast, when anybody comes on the podcast, they don't get told what to say, as you both will be able to tell us. Kenny, your thoughts, please, on Kevin Felwell and Patrick Stewart.
On Andrew Kavanagh backing him, well, I wouldn't expect anything less at a press conference. He's not going to turn around and throw them under a bus right there and then. So I didn't expect anything less, put it that way. However, I got the feeling from some of the stuff that Andrew Kavanagh said, even stuff about transfers, and as you say, the light shine brighter in Glasgow, and we'll have to address that when we're signing players. Now, that I took that as an indirect slap to Kevin Felwell's face, that you've utterly misjudged this. You're the one that's responsible for this. So I think he's under a little bit of pressure from the owners. I don't think I'll put it a different way. If he gets this wrong in January, he won't last into next summer. He won't get a third transfer window. That's my kind of take on pretty much what Kavanagh said about him. I thought he came across okay. Chris is right. A lot of technical answers and stuff like that. Yeah, he's a director of football. The issue I have at this moment in time is that because of and he was the one that said, I think in the RTV interview, I don't know if he said it elsewhere, where he turned around and said it's the owner's remit that the director of football, head coach structure is in place. Well, that's fine. But if that's the way it's going to be, I expect my director of football or my sporting director, whatever it is he is, to be a leader of men. I want to see him front and centre. I want to see him every single bloody week, if that's the case, because I find it kind of mind numbing, if you know what I mean. That we've barely seen him. We've had one interview from him since he arrived on our TV, really, haven't we? And that's been it. So must do better. I thought he came across okay yesterday. I'm not going to stick the boot in too much. I thought he came across all right. I didn't. Again, I'll agree with Chris. I didn't appreciate the Chermiti comment. I just don't think he's got the context of Scottish football. If you're signing somebody for 10 million quid, then you're going to expect to get 35, 40 million quid. Then you're about to break the Scottish transfer record and obliterate it. And we've seen all of that kid. He's worth 40 million quid. So I can't see that happening anytime soon for all his physical attributes and stats. On Stuart, I'm sorry, he's my namesake, but what a lightweight. I mean, genuinely, certainly at the press conference, Stevie, I know and I understand that you had a fair amount of dealings with him last night at the round table, and I'm interested to see what you say. But I felt, again, like Chris, I thought there's leaders of men at that table, you know, the Danny Rohl, Kevin Thelwell, they're supposed to be these leader of the football side of things. Andrew Kavanagh, a leader, and he doesn't look like that at all. And I think he answered one question rightly on. And as I say, I think I stuck it in the agenda. He just doesn't look comfortable in front of a camera. And that's a major issue again for a CEO. You have to be confident. You have to be a leader, and he doesn't look like that, Stevie. So I will be intrigued to see what you or hear what you think yourself after the dealings with him last night, because I haven't talked to you much about it. So it'll be interesting.
Okay, so last night I was invited and attended a small gathering. There has been chief executive. Kind of, that's not the right word. It's not a show, but it's a fan engagement at New Edmondson House, and they scaled it right back, and they invited a small group of supporters from the RSA, fan media, Union Bears, etc. and nothing was off the table at all. There was a few things that were not to be discussed off record. They were not in any shape or form groundbreaking, so there was nothing there in the slightest that you would think. What I did get from it is that Andrew Kavanagh speaks really, really well. He speaks really strongly about where he believes Rangers can go to. He gives me confidence in that. A very polite man, spent individual minutes with almost everyone talking to you. The issue I have, and this can be taken one or two ways. He either is so sure of what he knows and Patrick Stewart, Kevin Thelwell, and those that he's put in running the club that in a year's time he will be proven right, or he's so entrenched in what he's doing he doesn't realise what they are doing to the football club in the eyes of the supporters as a wider range. And that's dangerous. And that's where we are just going to have to wait and see how this plays out. I got the impression from what he said that they are well aware mistakes have been made and they are well aware of what they need to do to fix it. I would imagine that Patrick Stewart and Kevin Thelwell are well aware of that. And you can say about reading in between lines and stuff like that, but that's how it appeared to me. On Kevin Thelwell, people might not like this. I thought he handled it really well. That doesn't mean I agreed with the things he has to say. And I understand why people will use words like gaslighting. I'm not sure I agree with it, but I'm not sure that I agree with Kevin Thelwell and some of the things he said. I think that hiring his son, regardless of how good he is or how it looks, is just the wrong look for him and this football club, especially at this time. So he can tell us that English teams were trying to take Robbie. He can tell us that he's the best in the position. there is some times where you should just go in a different direction. And that's just my feeling on it, especially at this time. It doesn't look good at all. And with regards to his transfer record, Manny Fernandez has been injured for 6 weeks. Why are we not telling people that? And I made that clear as well. Why are we not? Because it allows a narrative when there's a void. Why is he not in the match day squad? He's a waste of money. He's absolutely garbage. He's not getting game time. Just make the call. So I'll talk about that slightly in a minute. As for Chermiti, it's almost like a hill that they are going to die on. They are utterly convinced on this boy. And that looks foolish when we see what we've seen. That is one where we're just going to have to let that play out as well, because see in 6 months' time, if he is still a dud and not showing anything, and I say still a dud, that's not meaning to sound harsh. We just haven't seen it yet from the lad at all, and it looks very unconvincing. That is problematic for Kevin Thelwell. So I get the reasoning. And one of the big things for me, and I'll share this as well, is when they talked about spending £8 million on that, my rationale on £8 million is they've got to be a world beater and they've got to be first choice. They've got to be the difference maker. The way they were talking about it last night was that £8 million was not a big deal to Andrew Kavanagh. We will spend that again. We will spend more than that. And for that position, it was not a problem. They don't expect him to be first choice. They don't expect him to be the best player. They don't expect him to even be the best player now. And again, this goes back to something that I said to them. And I found that extraordinary. Patrick Stewart, unconvincing yesterday, completely. However, he was a bit more engaging in a smaller audience. He took a lot more questions. He put his hands up and said that he had made mistakes over Philippe Clement. He had made mistakes over the Tifo. He said he would do the Tifo all over again, that he got it completely wrong. He reacted wrong. And this is, again, something I said to him. And he said that he'd made mistakes, that he's working really hard to fix them. That you can take whatever way you want. I think he realises how much pressure he is. I think he probably realises he's made major mistakes. So what I said to him was that I didn't like his leadership as CEO. I didn't like the fact that he was too quiet as a CEO when we needed him. And I cited the Tifo as being a major mistake. He then went on to apologise. And then I said to him, but you should be telling the fans about that. And he says, well, I just did. But the damage is done for me now because it's far too late. The train has left the station and went round the country twice and back again. That should have been relayed to the supporters by Fab, by whatever. And that's the message I made. And they took that on board. I also said that the leadership of the club, when we listen to Willie Collum, when we listen to mistakes being made and we're completely silent, it just looks like we don't care. They explain what they're doing behind the scenes and how they're approaching it and everything else, which is great. But maybe there's a time where it should be fed to friendlier people that can be said. We don't need to do statements and things. Rangers are actively pursuing this. Rangers are actively working in the background to fix these mistakes. The club are really unhappy about it. So there's lots of things on what we can do in media comms and how to shape things. And my biggest thing was leadership of the football club, which they took on board and they didn't deny. So there was a lot of truth last night. A lot of things were said about summer recruitment going in a completely wrong strategy. Andrew Kavanagh took that. Kevin Thelwell took that. Andrew Kavanagh answered more or less the same as what you've seen in the press conference. They want to spend money. There's money to be spent. There's investment to be had. They will address the problem. They need leadership. They need experience. Mistakes were maybe made in the summer, but we tried to do too much, 25, 26, 27 million, 27 deals. So there was a lot to take. We finished it with a question on the stadium, which they were at the point of wanting to make it off record, but then decided, okay, fine. I don't think they wanted to talk about it. I don't think they wanted to be in a position where people felt it was moonbeams as such, where, we'll talk about things. They're in a study. It's called Ibrox Regen. Short term, give the place a facelift, do cosmetic surgery to the stadium. Medium term, fix major issues within the stadium. Long term, get the capacity up as soon as possible, but are more obviously going to take a longer time. 3 options for that: build on a stand, put a third tier on one of the stands, put in the corners or lower the pitch. Putting in the corners is almost a no-go, costs too much money, and there's not enough value, and there's not enough seats to be had for it. Adding on a stand that they don't have the room, they've looked at it, various studies will continue. Lowering the pitch will add 4,400 seats, and there's room to do that, and that's the most logical one, and it costs the most effective in terms of what they will get back and what they can add. That would take us up to 57,000 from the 52-ish where we are now, so roughly 57,000. That is going to a feasibility stage where they're actually going to go now, act on it and look at it. So there was a lot to unpack. I dismiss the theory that they got it easy. They actually didn't. We made it perfectly clear, abundantly clear to Andrew Kavanagh, Patrick Stewart and Kevin Thelwell that the fan feeling towards Kevin Thelwell and Patrick Stewart was intense. We made it clear that mistakes can't continue. Leadership needs to be more vocal and more leading at the football club. Concerns over staffing and things like that were all made clear. And I don't think anybody last night attending, Fab, follow, Heart and Hand, anybody that was there last night could have been accused of giving it an easier time. So it is what it is. That was quite long-winded, gentlemen. It wasn't really meant to be, but that's the take on last night. I'll finish it by saying I want a period of normality at this football club where decisions that are made seem logical, seem for the benefit of the football club, and it seems like we're all going in the one direction. The negativity around the football club has to stop. The only ultimate way that will happen is if things happen on the pitch and off the pitch and they get better. It's time that everything was put aside with regards to talking from the football club. We need to see action. We need to see results. We need to see better leadership. We need to see more decisions made that we all agree with. Chris, quite a lot there to unpack. Just give me your kind of thoughts on that, and Kenny, the same with you, mate.
Yeah, like as I say, more came out of the round table than did out of the press conference, and some of the things that came out of the round table, I don't want to say appease me because it didn't. I think coming out after the fact saying I would have handled the TIFO differently. To your point, Stevie, well, tell us then. That the longer or the more you don't address something when there's a narrative already out there. Well, it's not a narrative. It was a fact. They dealt with that horrendously, and the fact that we were thinking that for so long and we were using it as a stick to beat him with because we were, and him just trying to ignore it and hope that it goes away, it just reduces his credibility more and more, and that's what's been happening here. Like, it's all very well saying they were nice and positive and upbeat and honest with us yesterday, which they were, but it's just, in some fans' eyes, it is too little too late because this has been allowed to continue on. Manny Fernandez out for 6 weeks. That was news to me yesterday. Again, why aren't we told that? We get told that 6 weeks ago that he's out injured and there's no time frame, but he's out injured, we're assessing him, blah, blah, blah. Straight away, no one automatically goes to Kevin Thelwell with that. I know how Rangers fans work. We probably will start criticising our medical department if that's out there, but we're never going to be truly happy. But certainly Kevin Thelwell isn't getting the blame for that. When for the last 6 weeks he has been. People are saying 3.5 million a player that can't even make the squad, and not a word from the club that he's injured. Like, it's silly, but do you know what? There is a train of thought here from yesterday that we can draw a line and have a reset. I don't know if I particularly think that that's possible, but I'm certainly willing to try and buy into it. And as Kenny said earlier, and as I alluded to, talk is cheap and actions speak louder than words. So they do have the potential for a reset. We've cleared the air in many ways. We've drawn a line, and we can start to move on. And then judging them from Tuesday, the 21st of October, 2025, judging their actions from them, I'd be happy to do that, no problem. The only problem is our track record and our body of work suggests that other things are going to be on the horizon here. And the one thing we will be judging them on, it won't ultimately be Danny Rohl. It will be January, because Danny Rohl will outlast the January window, but I'm not sure Stewart and Thelwell will. So we'll see. We'll see. It's a precarious situation. You know, we knew it was coming to a head, and I don't believe that the toxicity will die down if we continue not to win football matches. That's the most important thing, and this is where it all can. We're basically going right round now here, Stevie. This is where it's unfair in Danny Rohl, as it would be unfair on anybody. But this is where it's really unfair in Danny Rohl. This is a situation he's in where he has to win football matches, not just for the fans, not just for himself, but for the two guys that gave him the job. Because if he doesn't win football matches, the fans won't go for Danny Rohl. It'll be they two they go for, and this is where it just, you know, it's unnecessary pressure, but that's where we find ourselves. Well, obviously, I'd be interested to hear Kenny's thoughts on it.
We need to, just before I come to Kenny, I'm going to address this on Russell Martin. Dalewell was hammered for Russell Martin stuff. We all asked him, particularly Fab, very strongly, why it took so long, why they gave it as much time as it is, why those comments come out, why was he being allowed to say that he was back so much in press conferences and the conversations were good, why was the narrative from the club, you know, it doesn't matter how bad it's get, we're sticking with this. All of this they took on board. Kevin Thelwell admitted that the conversation that he had looked terrible, but he tried to emphasise that he's here to support Russell Martin. He spoke well of him, but they were not sugarcoating the job he done here, and it was extremely poor, and they didn't get anywhere near what they wanted. They had several discussions with Russell Martin about what they wanted, and it wasn't coming. So in hindsight, they all probably said it went on way too long, and he was there for 122 days. And that shows you, I think, personally, reading between the lines, I think they know that they fucked up. They know that they left it too long. They tried to leave it as long as humanly possible, and they probably realised they left it 2 months too late, Kenny. So on that, I thought important. Nobody sat there and didn't grill them on Russell Martin. Everybody did. It wasn't personal. It wasn't, you know, ferocious towards Russell Martin. It was more on there. Why did you appoint him on that backdrop? Why did you put him in that position? Why did you keep him there for as long? And why didn't you fix it? And they were all taken on board. So sorry, Kenny, before you answered that. It just seemed prevalent because I hadn't mentioned Russell Martin that I should discuss that.
Well, good, buddy. On the Russell Martin thing, there I messaged to Perry you just in case it come up. Tello Ascard has said it was unique under Russell Martin, as did John Souttar. So if that is two international players turning around and tell you this man was unique, no place being at Glasgow Rangers, I'm afraid, for me. But Chris is right on yesterday as a whole. You know, it has to be a little bit of a watershed moment. I think Chris is right again in regard to Danny Rohl. Danny Rohl's here for at least this season now. You're not going to get rid of him at all. You can't. So this is the thing that I've taken out of this from a lot of what they've said during the day yesterday and then last night, Stevie, is that one comment where the lights shine brighter in Glasgow. Yeah, but you can dim them by controlling the narrative. And Rangers have just failed to do that. And yesterday you had the three leaders of the Rangers Football Club, if you like, there sitting in front of us with their new head coach and all kind of basically admitting we've made a right rip roaring after this, so we now need to kind of try and fix it. It's not a good start for any of them at all, is it? I mean, it's just a horrific, you know, thing to view. It's the optics are horrible, but that is the control. That is the main thing that they're not doing at this minute in time. As you've said, as Chris has said there, the boy Fernandez has been injured for nearly 2 months and nobody's cracked a light. Are you all daft? I mean, are you really that unaware that needs to be, you know, portrayed to us and told to us? Because believe it or not, Kevin, it's you that's getting the blame for this guy not playing. And just feeling, you know, you just get the feeling they're utterly unaware of that, but telling you, oh, we're under scrutiny. aye, it's proper scrutiny. It's not just a bit of small talk on a podcast. It is everybody across the board is questioning everything that's going on at our football club. And I've said it many, many times, and I'm going to say it again. The three of them need to understand. Stuart, again, fair play to him for admitting eventually, because I wasn't even 100% certain that he would even ever do that about the TIFO. But there is a way to control this, and as I say, dim those lights a little bit, and that is to properly control what's coming out of the football club, what you want to portray the football club as. Saying nothing is never going to help, because all you're going to do is have guys like us, guys like the mainstream media that are going to fill the vacuum. We're going to create the noise, everybody, and there's plenty in the mainstream media that can't stand Rangers, and it's high time they all kind of understood that. So for me, it's just one of those things, mate, that interesting to hear what you said about last night, because I wasn't there, and I was wanting to be there with you, but couldn't make it. But as I say, for me, let's try and draw a line on the sand here and try and move on and get behind the new head coach. And as for Stuart and Thelwell, as I say, I think they're both on borrowed time. I think Stuart more so, because I think he is in an interim position almost as such, because of the nature of the CEO thing and this takeover happening. Thelwell, I think he's got one window to save his job. Simple as that.
Yeah, I think we can say draw a line in the sand, but also that doesn't mean everything's wonderful and rosy and we were fanny-dazzled by anything that was said yesterday. Eyes are firmly still on Andrew Kavanagh, Patrick Stewart and Kevin Thelwell. Danny Rohl, we wish all the absolute best to him. We're 100% behind him, as we would be anywhere else. I will say on a separate note, anybody saying 25-8 at Ibrox Stadium should get punted immediately. It's wanky talk and shouldn't happen. So that's all I've got to say about that. That was one of those moments where you were just like, what the fuck? But anyway, I'm not one of these types to cause problems at press conferences, so I just sat quietly, as you all know. Chris, big game tomorrow night. Let's talk about that just before we end this podcast, because we have spent a lot of time. It's been a big podcast. We had a lot to say about Danny Rohl, a lot to say about the leaders of the football club. Big game tomorrow night. It's a must-win. We have to beat Brand to have any chance in the Europa. It's not going to be easy. They're favourites. He's not got a magic wand. He can't suddenly make this all wonderful, but there's signs of life in that team somewhere. So let's go and have a go at this tomorrow night. See if he can start well. This club, this crowd on Saturday in the first half, you heard that they want to get behind somebody. They want to believe. They want to go and do all that. Tomorrow night would be wonderful if we could get a result. And I know it's so difficult for him being here 2 days. But, 3-0, Danny, get it sorted, pal.
Yeah. Anything less would be an absolute disgrace, wouldn't it? No, obviously I need to make a disclaimer. That was a joke. It's really difficult for him. Really, really difficult for him, purely on the basis that he's come in a couple of training sessions, won't know the vast majority of the players. Obviously, I expect he's a very... he's done his research into the squad, of course he has. However, he won't know him on a personal level and a professional level, other than Gassama or maybe one or two others. So, with the theme of the pod, Stevie, and I'm trying not to bring the mood down, my expectations aren't that high for tomorrow, because I don't know what to expect from Danny Rohl. I don't think he's going to rip it up completely and go in a whole new direction from Russell Martin or Stevie Smith. I think there'll be subtle changes over time, which will then constitute a massive change over a longer period of time. However, what I would love him to do, which I don't think he will do, purely with the size of the game tomorrow, because I do believe, Stevie, anything less than a win, then it most likely means that we will be eliminated, which again isn't on Danny Rohl. It's very, very much on Russell Martin. I can't see him going in this direction, but what I would love him to do is just go out there and express yourself. I think Stevie Smith tried that at the weekend, and you've seen a lot of the guys trying to express themselves and be individuals, and that's not necessarily a bad thing because they were so used to this unique style, which, as I've seen obviously one of the comments, but unique equals pile of shite basically, because it was. But because it's a European game away from home and it's really a must win, I can't see them doing that. So I think there will be a more structure to it with maybe one or two tweaks, which means that we're not going to see fast, free-flowing football. And believe me, this is something coming from me. But so please don't judge Danny Rohl on tomorrow's performance or result for that matter. I do believe if we win, that would be unexpected. And I get there'll be a lot of Rangers fans saying, we're Rangers, they're Bran. You know, we've beat better teams than Bran over the last couple of years. Yes, absolutely, but we're in a pretty dire situation. Just because we have a new manager doesn't mean that the players have totally switched, flicked a switch in their mind and they're just going to start again. The players, some of the players will still be a bit scarred from this season, the new players, because it comes back to this mentality thing. I don't think we've got a lot of these players that have the mentality that can just start again from tomorrow. And then obviously you get the longer term players we know we're going to get from them. So look, it will be interesting. It really, really will be interesting. I'm actually looking forward to seeing how Danny Rowe approaches this. If he goes out aggressively tomorrow and does what I'm not saying that he should listen to me and I'm suggesting anything by any manner of means, but if he does go out, what I would prefer him to do, obviously have these players go out and express themselves, that to me would be massive. That would be absolutely massive. But I just can't see it. And by the way, I totally understand why he would go for a more cautious structured approach, purely because the games came so quickly and it is a much-won game. So yeah, I'm sorry I can't say that he needs to. Sorry that we're definitely going to be winning tomorrow. Not ruling it out, but I'm just saying my expectations aren't exactly high about tomorrow. Because I do believe. I mean, so many things have went against Daniel so early before he's even played a match. You know, he had to deal with that. Or the press conferences yesterday had to deal with the fact that he was unveiled as Rangers head coach, and not many people want to actually ask him questions because they were interested in the other two, and then. And amongst all that, there's a game, 2 days after his appointment, which means he's not had many training sessions. So this could be a real act at defiance tomorrow if the players do him a turn. If they go out there and win, that would really, really do him the world of good. Because then you know that they're buying into him and they're out there to prove a point, not to Danny Rule, but to the fans as well. So yeah, there's a couple of good subplots in there, Stevie. So yeah, it'll be interesting. I'm certainly not getting into this match depressed and not looking forward to it the way I did with a lot of Russell Martin's games. Let's be honest.
Kenny, he said he's going to make a few changes, but listen, we certainly can't be flakes in Brand tomorrow, can we? I've been thinking about that for about 5 minutes. Honestly, that's why I've been smiling and stuff. I've been so excited to say it. Please come back on the podcast.
That's brutal. brutal. Listen, Chris said you don't judge him in the game tomorrow. You'll get the same as everybody else. He's getting the first 20 minutes and we'll judge him and that'll be it. But on tomorrow, I don't know. I genuinely don't know. Chris is right. In terms of preparation, what kind of shit show preparation is this for a European tie? A new manager that's had to deal with 2 days of media and literally a couple of training sessions and then a one training session and then a tactical session. He said that's what it was. So he's got no prep whatsoever. So a lot of that will come down to Stevie Smith, who will know the players a bit more, and he'll take a lot of guidance from him, I think. It is wanky patter here, absolutely spot on. But again, Stevie, it's just one of those things. Sad as it sounds, I agree with Chris. Not that that's the sad part of it. What I mean is that if we lose tomorrow, we're done. We're out of this. We're not. You've really got to look at it and say you're going to need 12 points to hit the playoffs. So we've got to win 4 or 5 games, and 3 of them are away from home, and it's going to be really tough. So I don't see it. I don't see it happening if we don't actually go over there and get a win tomorrow. But that might be a little bit of a blessing in disguise in regard to domestic football, because it might mean that if you're being realistic, we might need to just have to prioritise. I mean, we've got 2 games a week, domestic football. But listen, we've been going on for about 4 hours here, so I'm quite happy to can what I'm saying now, because just good luck to the team, good luck to Danny Rohl tomorrow. Really looking forward to seeing what he does.
Folks, thank you everybody for watching the podcast. I'm going to bring up a message here, which is somewhat amazing but equally heartbreaking. Andrew Kerr said, "Can I thank everyone on this podcast? My dad loved it. He sadly passed away today, 82 years of bear. Thank you all again." Andrew, beautiful message, mate. So sorry for your loss on behalf of everybody at the podcast. I send my deepest condolences to you and your family. We all do. A very touching message. I lost my old fella last year, and I know how difficult it is. So thank you, mate. Really appreciate that message. Thank you to everyone that watches and views 4 Lads to the Dream podcast. We really, really appreciate it. Thank you to our sponsors, Rhino Express, Clydeview Fire Extinguisher and Joinery, Athlon Industrial Solutions, CSD Air Conditioning, and our partners, Black Rooster and Art of Gold. If you want to be a member of the podcast, which really helps us, I think it's up. No, I never do this right. Up that way. Yes, there it is over there. You can scan the QR code and become a member. We really appreciate all your support. We really do. We're fast approaching 11,500 subs on YouTube, and you just keep growing this podcast. And I really, really, really love that and appreciate that, all your support. Once again, thank you to everybody that watches. Our love to the Kerr family. Please take care of each other. Enjoy the football. Sorry if it's been a longer podcast than usual, just so much to say tonight. We love our football club. Go and get a result tomorrow, lads. Make it all feel a wee bit better, and let's have a cracking start to the Danny Rohl era. Good night, folks. Take care. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.
The 4 Lads podcast is sponsored by Rhino Express, Clydeview Joinery, Athlon Industrial Solutions Limited, and CSD Air Conditioning, in partnership with Black Rooster and Art of Gold. Thank you for listening to or watching the podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show.